Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Thumb. I came out to my black bean field this morning, and I was just gonna check for blossoms and stuff, see if I need to start my fungicide regimen yet. But um, yeah, I didn't really see any blossoms yet, so I'm kind of, I don't know, if that kind of itching to get out here because yeah, the grass is growing. Um, I put like an inhibitor on the grass, but can't really spray the grass with the broadleaf spray for whatever reason. I think it kind of like counteracts each other or something. But anyway, all in all, this field's looking pretty good. This is probably my best case scenario field. Um, I'd say another week the rows should be filled in. If these were like 15s or 20s, they'd be filled in probably. But they're 28-inch rows, so they're not going to be filled in yet. But got a little bit of yellowing from the large rain event we had last week. I don't know. Some of them will snap out of it and grow, but I'm going to lose some. But yeah, I was also checking for bugs. I did see one a little bit earlier, but there was a Japanese beetle chowing on. You can see little holes in that leaf there. So yeah, they were chowing on them. Yeah, I've seen a few of them here and there, but I'm not too worried about it yet. I'm gonna see if I can get away without insecticides again this year. But my biggest problem is deer. You know, you can see they've been browsing pretty heavy. This field isn't too bad because I don't know, this field just kind of hit the ground when I planted it. Them seeds just hit the ground running. They took off. There were some of the dry spots that didn't emerge. I don't know, it was like a week, but most of it was up in 3 days, and it really never stopped growing even when it was dry. So yeah, this field's doing good, and that's what's saving them. I mean, we're basically surrounded by woods here, and this field is the first restaurant for a deer when they walk out of the woods at night. So, but luckily they've been growing fast enough that they've been holding their own, and for that I'm happy. But so yeah, like I said, this is best case scenario. But yeah, I think this video I'll talk about deer damage. So let's go check out some other crops. Okay, now I'm standing in the infamous soybean field. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time here because, quite frankly, it's kind of embarrassing. But yeah, this field, I planted it the week before Mother's Day, and it really, honestly, it didn't grow much. And the deer were eating it just as fast as it was growing, especially in this low spot down here, because deer like the low spots, and you know, it's closer to the woods, everything. But yeah, the deer were just mowing her down. But the one thing I did that, I don't know, the jury's still out on it. When I sprayed my black beans, I put in a product called Plant Skid, I think it's called. It's a deer repellent. I figured it was kind of a snake oil thing, but I asked a few people and they said, yeah, it works. And yeah, so I got some. Didn't even ask the price. If I would have asked the price, I probably wouldn't have done it. But I had a little too much mixed up in my, in the sprayer. So I went ahead and I had a little too much water in it, so I went ahead and just dumped everything in. Like, I dumped my ammonium sulfate, the I can't remember what I put on for foliar feed, but I dumped that in, and that plant skid, mixed it all up. It was kind of a pain to mix up because it was like, it's basically dried blood, and I just kind of dumped it in the sprayer, and yeah, I actually drove up and down the lane to help mix it up while the thing was agitating. Anyway, I got it mixed up, and but I before I put my herbicide in for the black beans, I I took a pass across this field right down these headlands, and you know, and I don't know if it was the foiler feed or if the plant skid actually worked and kept the deer out, but you can actually see a difference here. Um, Maybe I'm optimistic, but um, well, the sprayer is like 42 feet wide, which would be from where I'm standing, yeah, roughly, yeah, maybe a little more. So about from here to the ditch, and you can see a difference. And like I said, I don't know if it was the foiler feed or the plant skid, the repellent, but yeah, there's a little bit of a difference there. But yeah, so this field is pretty devastated from the deer and some mistakes I made too. Um, but yeah, the deer were keeping her 8 right back, and I was pretty depressed. It's starting to perk up now, so I don't know. I think I'll get something out of it. But okay, now let's go to the other black bean field. Okay, so this is take 3 of this video, or this little section of this video. At a glance, this field doesn't look too bad. I was expecting deer pressure here. I really was, because it's like the worst part of it. But it's, if you look that direction, it doesn't look too bad. Up, you know, I don't know, doesn't look terrible. Yeah, there's grass growing in it just like the last field. But then the farther back, the road is just the other side of that old hunting shack and that woods. And further you get away from the road, the worse it looks. And I'm standing in kind of a transition point here. And you can see just about every plant, well, every plant has nipping on it. You know, here's a good example of a bad thing. I mean, these are, I mean, you would think maybe them didn't emerge early or whatever, but they emerged. They just been nibbling them off right from the beginning. And you know, I don't know, they might amount to something, but the weeds are gonna keep growing because there's not gonna be a canopy. But yeah, you get back into here, and yeah, they're pretty well devastated. Yeah, this field it's very good for hunting, but very bad for growing beans. Actually, growing beans, growing wheat, growing anything that deer will eat. You know, like the rye don't look bad. About the only thing they do there is just trample it down. But they kind of stay on trails, so it's you run into trails that are trampled down, but it's not like they trample the whole field down. And you know, this field here, I mean, you can see rows. Yeah, the weeds are or the grass is pretty bad, and there's other weeds too that didn't die, but yeah, this isn't going to be much of a canopy. And I flip-flop back and forth even on a daily basis on whether I'm going to just abandon this part of the field, because it's so bad for deer. So yeah, that's kind of where this is at. And I guess I kind of want to talk to the deer hunters on this. You know, so far I haven't said anything a farmer hasn't thought or seen on his own farm. But the deer hunters, I guess all I want to say is, you know, if you've got permission to hunt on a farmer's farm, this is why he wants you to hunt there. I mean, it's kind of critical to keep them deer under control. You know, and even as a hunter, as a sportsman, as a conservationist, just keeping the deer under control keeps a healthy herd too. So use that as an excuse to do it, you know. But if you've got permission to hunt on a guy's farm and he's part of the deal is that you shoot a few does, then you better do it, because if you don't, he might someday just find somebody else who will. I don't own this land, and I kind of harass the guys that own it all the time to, it's like, hey, go, why don't you kill a few does, I honestly, I'm a hunter, and I enjoy deer. I do. But the one thing that irritates me sometimes is when people shoot small bucks and they say things like, "Oh, you can't eat the horns," or, "Well, I'm out for the meat." It's like, well, then shoot does. Let them little bucks grow, because the same guys that do that are the same guys that complain that there's no big bucks. And there's a lot of, I don't know what the word is, hypocrisy, if I'm saying that right, of deer hunters. And so yeah, I guess long story short, if you're a farmer, bring your deer hunters out this time of year and show them stuff like this, and say, if you can shoot a few does and do what you say you're going to do, you can hunt this year. If not, I'm going to find somebody else. And be stern about it. I mean, they don't really take it seriously. I mean, you walk through a woods, and I mean, the woods is lush, and there's no way the deer are ever going to eat that down. But why would they eat a stick when they can eat a bean plant? And so yeah, I guess I've ranted on long enough about this, but yeah, so there's really no excuses in Michigan either, or at least in this area. I mean, if you buy a combo tag, it used to be you can, how is it, the one tag you can shoot any buck you want, 3 inches or over or whatever. And the second one's a restricted license where you can only shoot at 8-point or bigger. Well, 4 points on one side or bigger. And which, that was a good thing. I mean, I'm all for restrictions. But then they came up with this deal, I don't know, it's been a couple of years ago, where if you didn't shoot a buck, well, you could use that same tag to shoot a doe. And we have a late doe season. If it's a matter of shooting a doe or eating a tag sandwich, I'll shoot the doe. I mean, and I think everybody should, because we got to keep them under control just for their own good. Or if you hit a deer with your car and do thousands of dollars worth of damage, or sometimes people even get hurt from that. Yeah, maybe you should think about that too. I mean, there's lots of reasons to keep them deer under control, and our county is out of control, especially where I live here. But anyway, I could go on all day about it. But so yeah, take your share of does, and let the little bucks go, and then you won't have to drive to Iowa to shoot a big buck maybe in the next 10 years or so. Anyway, I guess all that being said, just like, share, subscribe, and take her easy.